One Piece 1099. What to expect from the chapter. All eyes are on One Piece chapter 1099 right now, and fans are incredibly excited for the story to continue the flashback of Kuma, which is currently ongoing. The Egghead Island arc has been nothing short of fascinating for the fans, and fans can only hope that it continues to maintain this quality as the series moves forward. In the previous chapter, the Kuma flashback progressed quite a lot, and it showcased the death of Ginny, along with the birth of Bonnie. The disease surrounding Ginny's death was also tackled, and the same disease is haunting Bonnie now. It is clear that the next few chapters of One Piece are going to continue to focus on finding a cure for it, among other things. Kuma and Bonnie embark on an adventure. One Piece chapter 1099 will most likely see Kuma and Bonnie embark on an adventure. These two characters will most likely be traveling soon in an attempt to find a cure for Bonnie's sapphire scale disease. Fans know that this disease is very dangerous and leads to death. If one is exposed to any form of natural light, be it sunlight or moonlight, they will see this disease spreading at an incredibly frustrated. At the same time, even without exposure to natural light, this disease does spread in time and takes the life of the person. Essentially, it is an incurable disease that will eventually consume the life of the person. It was explicitly told in the previous chapter that Bonnie will have 5 years to live at most, and that she will eventually end up dying. From here onwards, Kuma will most likely end up taking things into his own hands and trying to find a cure for her illness. Of course, Bonnie cannot be exposed to any form of natural light, which means she will have to be covered somehow. Perhaps, Kuma will lug her around a box or maybe through some other ways, so that he prevents any direct contact with natural light. The goal of this adventure is going to be to find a cure for Bonnie's disease, and that is certainly something that needs to be addressed in One Piece chapter 1099. Kuma finds the Toshi no Mi. It is unknown how Bonnie is going to cure her disease at the moment. However, One Piece after 1099 could actually deliver this cure to Bonnie in the form of a devil fruit. This cure could come via the Toshi no Mi. Fans have previously seen a very similar case of a disease being cured by a devil fruit. When Law was afflicted with the Amber Lee disease, he was cured after he ate the Opop no Mi. Corazon went to great lengths to find this devil fruit for him and make him eat it. Fans should expect a similar scenario here, only this time with Kuma and Bonnie. Kuma will take Bonnie around in search of various cures and will eventually likely cross paths with this devil fruit. It is also possible that Kuma will research the devil fruit encyclopedia to find out which fruit would help cure her disease. The Toshi no Mi is surely one such option, and fans will be incredibly interested to see how it ends up working out for them. Essentially, by consuming this devil fruit, Bonnie's age would then be controllable. She could also control the age of various things and, essentially, by controlling the age of the disease, kill it. This devil fruit would be incredibly useful for her, and fans would then get to see why and how she ate it. Kuma meets Vegapunk. It is also possible that Kuma will end up meeting Vegapunk very soon in One Piece chapter 1099. If Kuma does leave on an adventure, the person whom he seeks out first and foremost is likely Vegapunk. Fans know Vegapunk to be a very proud scientist, and also the best in the entire world. If there's anyone in the world who would have information on the sapphire scale, it would be Vegapunk, and he could potentially end up helping Kuma get his hands on a cure or help him in some other way. Perhaps it is Vegapunk who will lead Kuma to the Toshi no Mi or give him information pertaining to this devil fruit. Fans do not know how the relationship between Kuma and Vegapunk starts, and how exactly it ends up concluding. However, what they do know is that these two characters do meet, and Bonnie is with Kuma when this happens, given that she mentioned that she was a mere child when she came to this island for the first time. One Piece chapter 1099 could thus highlight this very event, and fans would absolutely love to see how the events on Egghead Island transpired long ago in the past. This could also tie directly to Saturn, who fans know was responsible for taking away Kuma's memory. Perhaps, working with the Marines came at a big price for Kuma that he was willing to pay for none other than Bonnie. The Pacifista Project. If One Piece chapter 1099 does see Kuma and Vegapunk meet, then the Pacifista Project could also be brought forward in the story and introduced. Pacifistas have been under works for quite a long time in One Piece, and it is entirely possible that the first time that they were created was when Kuma met Vegapunk for the first time. It is also possible that a deal was brokered between Kuma and the world government. Perhaps Kuma turned himself into a pacifista in order to give Bonnie a chance to survive the disease. Perhaps that is how he found the Toshi Toshi no Mi, which would help cure the disease, and he traded his own life for it. There are quite a lot of mysteries that One Piece chapter 1099 could tackle. For now, fans are incredibly excited to see how Kuma ends up saving Bonnie and giving himself up as a sacrifice. Unfortunately, fans will have to wait to see these events progress, given that One Piece is on a break at the moment. Even with One Piece chapter 1098, it was clear that Oda was struggling to meet his deadlines. The previous chapter of One Piece was unfinished, and in order to avoid the upcoming chapter facing similar issues, Oda has taken a break. It is likely that his health is suffering, and fans can only hope that he takes proper care of himself, even if that means taking more frequent breaks. Fans can rest assured that once One Piece returns after a 2-week break, it will continue the incredible flashbacks surrounding the characters of Kuma and Bonnie in a phenomenal manner. The flashback is slowly building up to be exceptional, and it could even rival Odin flashback if it continues with the same incredible intensity and, at the same time, emotional weight. And in other news, One Piece chapter 1098, Bonnie's birth. One Piece chapter 1098 officially dropped, and this week's chapter has been nothing short of heartbreaking for the fans to read. This chapter hit completely new levels in the Kuma flashback, and was certainly the very best that the fans have read in this part of the story so far. The quality of this flashback has been improving ever since it began, and one can only wonder as to how much it can improve further as it continues. Oda is a master of flashbacks, and this one is proving to be one of the very best in the entire story, possibly reaching the level set by the Odin flashback, with events focusing on the life of Ginny, the birth of Bonnie, and the pain of Kuma. One Piece chapter 1098 was absolutely phenomenal. An unfinished chapter. One of the most surprising things that fans witnessed in One Piece chapter 1098 was the fact that the entire chapter was unfinished. Quite a lot of the chapter was illustrated just as sketches, instead of finished line art. This is because Oda was not able to finish the chapter on time, and the reason for this is unknown. On the cover page of the chapter, Oda apologized to the fans, however. A reason as to why this happened was not given. This has likely got to do with his health, which, as fans know, has been worsening over the years. This could also very well tie to the fact that Oda has been taking a lot more breaks recently, and fans can only hope that his health improves. Oda might need to take more breaks in order to improve his health, and that would certainly help him. Fans need to be understanding about this, and only hope that he starts to feel better soon. That said, the unfinished chapter certainly didn't affect the fans' reading experience, as it was definitely one of the very best ones in the entire story, and a heartbreaking one at that. Ginny's forced marriage. In the previous chapter of One Piece, fans got to see Kuma and Ginny join the Revolutionary Army. Both of these characters then went on to reach great heights, with Kuma becoming the third pillar of the army, while Ginny becoming the commander of the East Army of the Revolutionary Army. Given that Bello Betty holds this position currently, fans already knew that something terrible would happen to her. However, whatever they had imagined for her was nowhere near what actually ended up happening. Ginny ended up being kidnapped by someone, who later gave her to the Celestial Dragons. She was forcibly wed to a Celestial Dragon and taken as a slave permanently. Meanwhile, this news reached Dragon, but he did not do anything about this, much to the dismay of the fans. The Revolutionary Army continued their work and decided not to pursue Ginny. They expanded their operations all over the world and helped liberate many countries. In the eyes of the world, the Revolutionary Army became heroes. However, this definitely came at a massive sacrifice, which fans were seeing right in front of them. While not much was revealed about the life that Ginny endured, fans were told that a Celestial Dragon had his eyes on her and successfully managed to marry her forcibly. Ginny endured 2 terrible years in this place before an even greater catastrophe befell her. The Revolutionary Army expands. One Piece chapter 1098 highlighted the Revolutionary Army expanding their operations very well. Kuma, who was one of the pillars of this army, was distraught ever since Ginny was captured. Prior to this incident, Kuma was always a very emotional fellow who wore his heart on his sleeve and showcased emotions through a wide variety of expressions, no matter what. Now, Kuma barely showed any emotions on his face. It looked like all the joy had been sucked out of his life, and that he was devoid of feelings. Kuma also punished himself in a way by overdoing things. For instance, he started taking more missions and became more reckless than ever before. His body suffered a lot more, and while the Revolutionary Army members could not understand it, fans can put two and two together and come to the conclusion that Kuma was incredibly upset by what happened and, to an extent, blamed himself for it. The Revolutionary Army certainly made great waves, and Dragon looked like he was succeeding in expanding his operations as well. Dragon became an incredibly powerful fighter, and the Revolutionary Army was now being highlighted all over the world. Eventually, this army would even get brought up at the Reverie, as fans have seen during the Alabasta arc, Ginny's death and Bonnie's birth. For 2 years, the Revolutionary Army continued to grow significantly stronger. By this point in time, even Sabo had joined the Revolutionary Army, and fans got to see him train with Kuma as well. One day, the Revolutionary Army leaders were surprised by the fact that Ginny made contact. Ginny mentioned that she was finally let go by the Celestial Dragons. Essentially, she was discarded by them after they had no more use for her, especially since she ended up contracting the Sapphire Scale disease. This disease was deadly, and Ginny knew that she did not have long left to live. In her dying breaths, she wanted to talk to the Revolutionary Army once more, especially the love of her life, Kuma. She did not disclose where she was headed to, however. Kuma knew where she would be going. He immediately headed to the Sorbet Kingdom, right to the church where they were living. There, he found Ginny's dead body, which was covered in blue scales and stones. Ginny had her child with her, and this child was none other than Bonnie. The Celestial Dragons forced her to bear this child before she died, and one can't even imagine how much he must have suffered during those 2 years. From there onwards, Kuma decided to raise Bonnie and became a father to her. He raised her very well, however. This job became even more difficult when, suddenly, one day, the Sapphire Scale presented itself in Bonnie as well. One Piece chapter 1098 saw Kuma shut her in, preventing any natural light from hitting her, since that causes the disease to spread even faster. He left the Revolutionary Army in an attempt to find a cure for Bonnie, and sought out as many doctors as he possibly could. The vast majority of them did not even know what the disease was, however. Eventually, one of them mentioned the name of the disease to be Sapphire Scale, and the fact that it is almost never seen in the current day and age. After exclaiming that Bonnie was suffering from it, she was given 5 years to live, at most. Now, Kuma's goal is to find a cure for Bonnie's disease and, at the same time, deal with the evil King Bekori, who has now returned to the kingdom. That's a wrap for this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with more amazing videos very soon.